bestbookbits.com brings you the book summary of Keep Going, 10 Ways to Stay Creative in Good Times and Bad by Kleon. Keep working, keep playing, keep creating. In his previous books, Still Like an Artist and Show Your Work, both New York Times bestsellers, Kleon gave readers the keys to unlock their creativity and show them how to become better known. Now, he offers his most inspiring work yet, with 10 simple rules for how to stay creative, focused, and true to yourself for life. The creative life is not a linear journey to a finish line. It's a loop, so find a daily routine, because today is the only day that matters. Disconnect from the world to connect with yourself. Sometimes you just have to switch into airplane mode. Keep Going celebrates getting outdoors and taking a walk. As director Ingrid Bergman told his daughter, the demons hate fresh air. Pay attention, and especially pay attention to what you pay attention to. Worry less about getting things done and more about the worth of what you're doing. Instead of focusing on making your mark, work to leave things better than you found them. Keep Going, and its tireless practical and ethical principles for anyone trying to sustain a meaningful and productive life. Before we jump into this book summary, we at Best Book Bits have done over 1,000 summaries in video, written, and audio format, so check out the website bestbookbits.com, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow us on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast. On with the book summary. Keep Going. Number 1, create a routine to ensure that you show up for your work, irrespective of how creative you're feeling. Let's begin with a healthy amount of realism. Irrespective of the number of tricks you put up your sleeves, you're consistently going to encounter ups and downs in your creative work. You can support the ups and lessen the downs. However, your creativity is going to ebb and flow. You can influence it, however, you can't control it. You can control whether or not you show up for work. Prepare to get the present of creativity that appears in your way, irrespective of its strength. It could be a mighty rush or a pitfall trickle. However, either way, you need to be present so that you can harness it the best way you can. Also, you need to continually do the daily, figuratively, rain or shine. Nevertheless, there's no chance of experiencing a good workday if you're not doing any work days at all. In order to ensure that you show up for your work, there's a time-tested answer that's been the solution to a lot of creative people's success, and that is creating a daily routine. Yes, that signifies following a work schedule. However, it also signifies you need to have particular routines and customs that put you in the mood to work. There's a lot of possibilities. Sylvia Plath wrote early in the morning before her children woke up from sleep. Franz Kafka wrote during the late night after his family went to sleep. And John Steinbeck sharpened a lot of pencils before settling down to write. Van Gogh smelled rotten apples to get his groove flowing. Anything that floats your boat. Just know that it's your boat you have to float. There's no one-size-fits-all solution here. Your routine has to be made to your certain needs, situations, and personality. What time do you have to work? Are you a night owl? Or maybe an early bird? What puts you in the mood? In creating your routine, these are the types of questions you need to answer for yourself. If you're a person that is free-spirited, creative type, at first, the creation of a routine might appear unpleasant. However, consider it this way. The reason for a routine isn't to take your liberty away from you. In contrast, it's to offer you the liberty to follow your creative passions. A routine offers you a steady period of time for creative work, secured from busyness of the rest of your life. Number 2, disengage from disturbances in order to give yourself the time and space you need to do your creative work. You need to create time and space to focus if you need to do creative work. However, in today's hectic world, it can be difficult to get some peace and quiet. In order to escape this pandemonium of the present world, you can follow the path of the writer and literary scholar Joseph Campbell and form what he named as a bliss station. In its most solid form, a bliss station is a silent and quiet place where you visit to do your work. It may be a special room or a garage. However, if you don't have access to that type of place, you can create your own bliss station, a time of day, instead of a certain location. For instance, during weekdays, perhaps there are a few hours when you're at home alone, when everyone else is out. You can bliss out at your kitchen table. If it is a time or place, the main thing is to treat your bliss station as something sacred, no interruptions permitted. That signifies detaching from the interruptions of the present life. You can do that. Here are 2 guidelines to apply, not only maintaining the sanctity of your bliss station, however also to safeguard your creative time and energy in general. Firstly, accept airplane mode, not only as a choice on your smartphone, however, also as a state of being. Consider it this way. When you're on airplane, you're trapped in a closed surrounding and have a lot of time, no social media or text to accompany it. It makes it a perfect place to think and work. However, if you're sitting on a train and you're in the waiting room, you can reform the exact effect by putting in some earplugs and placing your phone on airplane mode. During airplane mode, you're blissfully unconscious of all the horrifying headlines that appear on the news nowadays. That takes us to the second tip, which is to detach from the news for at least part of the day. Particularly first thing during the morning, there are a lot of uplifting ways to begin your day, like walking, reading, listening to music, playing with your kids, and the list continues. Remember, you can constantly re-watch the news later in the evening or a chosen day of the week. By doing that, you can remain informed without feeling bummed out all the time. Number 3, to improve your creativity, utilize the power of creating lists, tidying, and sleeping. In order to safeguard your creativity from the chaos of the present life, you're now equipped with the bliss station and some healthy routines of interruption. In this chapter, we'll unpack some other basic things you can do to provide some order to disorder that surrounds you, and perhaps get some inspiration in the process. The first thing is to create a list. There's a common to-do list, however there are a lot of possibilities. David Stringley, the visual artist, has a lot of lists that he needs to draw. By doing that, when it's time for him to work, he'll never be at loss for concepts of the next thing to draw. The writer Stephen Johnson has a list of ideas to resort to someday, and he checks it for inspiration every couple of months. And the English rock band The Wire define their artistic vision by listing things they wouldn't do, for instance like solos, rocking out, or ending songs on choruses. The next tip is one that you perhaps heard a lot about recently, and that is tidying. Nowadays, tidiness guru Maria Kondo war on clutter. Some untidiness in your place of work is acceptable. As a matter of fact, it can even be beneficial. In any case, creativity is mainly about creating unusual relationships between distinct things. By leaving your work materials scattered around the place, you might end up with some inspiring connections. However, it gets to the point when a mess turns too messy. You know you've gotten there when you have a difficult time looking for the instrument you need to work on. As a rule of thumb, your materials can be unwanted items. However, your tools need to be organized. Having the limited objective in mind, tidying up can be a good backup activity to do when you're feeling choked. It will provide your body with something to do which might relax your mind. Also, it might even trigger some inspiration. For instance, you might remember an uncompleted piece of work that offers you an idea. In order to open yourself up to the possibility, tidy up bit by bit and reflectively considering each item you encounter. Lastly, don't only clean your space of work. Tidy up your brain as well. How? It's easy. Sleep. While you're sleeping, your cerebrospinal fluid removes toxins from your brain cells, and you wake up, you regularly see that your mind feels refreshed and also got new ideas. By tapping into the power of a good map, you'll be connecting with good company. Famous experts in the art of napping, Compromise of the Coen Brothers, Philip Roth, and Salvador Dali. Number 4. In order to safeguard your creativity, avoid monetizing it completely or getting very obsessed with fame. Do what you love. A lot of us have internalized that frequently repeated messages, and it has turned into one of the key career aspirations of our time. If you haven't gotten it already, picture getting a job where you are paid to follow your creative interest, or picture being able to support yourself by selling your work online. To a lot of people, those cases seem like dreams come true. However, truth be told, changing a passion into a key source of income is one of the easiest methods of changing it into something you hate. When your income is now on the line, you'll no longer only doing your work for the joy of it, you're also doing it to have a place to stay. Also, that's a lot of pressure to put on your passion. It can turn out ruining your joy. In order to prevent this trap, think of having a day job and following your creative work during your free time. If you still need to do what you love for a living, lessen the risk by fighting the temptation to change your whole creative yield into an income stream. Ensure that you're continually doing at least a little amount of creative work purely for the love of doing it. However, money isn't just the only external prize that can damage your passion. You can turn out to be just as narrowly focused on gathering followers, likes, shares, comments, website visits, and other online metrics. Although the solution to protect yourself, from time to time disregard the metrics, at least for a little time. For instance, when you post your work on social media, wait for at least a week before you check the numbers of likes and comments you get. Lastly, here's an easy, however a powerful approach to reconnect to your creativity on a pure level, uninfluenced by money or popularity, and that is gifting. Do something creative only for the sake of gifting a gift to someone else once in a while. It can be a friend, family member, or an online follower. For instance, the author would make a robot collage from magazine cutouts for his 5-year-old son whenever he was feeling down about his work. Afterward, his son would also make a robot collage for him, and they'd continue making and passing robots. Up until now, those robots are still some of the most cherished creations. You never know, a gift can turn out spreading across the world. A.A. Milne's Winnie the Pooh, Asteroid's lineage Pippi Longstocking, and J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit all started as stories the authors made for their children. Number 5. Concentrate less on being a creative person and focus more on creating creative things, and drop the notion of arriving. In the former chapter, we looked at concentrating less on covering what you do and more on just doing it. Now, you're going to consider the problem with the crucial measure of them, all which is whether or not you've arrived as an official writer, painter, filmmaker, or anything you've hoped to be, maybe even a YouTuber. This is part of the unlucky trend to concentrate on nouns instead of verbs of creative work. For instance, sculptor, dancer, and singer. All these titles are nouns. The concrete activities of sculpting, dancing, and singing are the matching verbs. It can be very counterproductive concentrating on being a creative noun instead of doing a creative verb. Let's assume that your passion is painting. If you're dedicated to being a painter, you might turn out waiting for someone to give you that title to you before you begin serious painting, the very activity that will approve the title in the first instance. However, the problems don't finish there. Let's assume that you're given your title and now you see yourself as a painter. Well, what about writing or sculpting? Those aren't something a painter would do. Hence, if you just consider yourself as being a painter, you might drop writing or sculpting. Due to this, you'll limit your creativity. Here is the crucial dilemma. Even if all the critics and colleagues in the world see you as an official bona fide painter with a capital P or any time title you yearn from, you're certainly not going to actually arrive as a creative person. This is because the journey of a creative life doesn't go through straight route, starting with a point A and finishing with a point B. It's more of a continuous circle. For example, let's assume that you're a writer. Each day you sit to write, you're faced with the same basic task all the time, writing words on a blank page in front of you. Once you complete one piece of work, you're always faced with the same question: what's next? That's as true for the greatest well-known writers in the world as it is for the guy writing in obscurity in his basement. And it's reality that can never change, irrespectively of how experienced or successful you turn out to be. There will consistently be another blank page to write. The question is if you'll show up to write it. Number 6, to revive your creativity, connect with a feeling of playfulness. Okay, so you have to concentrate more on verbs and focus less on nouns of your creative work. However, how do you really do this? If you want to take a masterclass on this question, just observe some young children performing art. They're natural-born experts regarding verbs or over nouns. Not only do they barely care less about being an official artist, however, they regularly don't even bother about the end product of their work. An example of this case is the author's son, Jules. Jules loves to draw when he was 2 years old. Stress on the verb, draw. He didn't care about the end product, drawing, which is eventually just another noun, a thing instead of an action. After he finished drawing, his father could place it on the wall or throw it in the bin. To Jules, it was all the same. Why the irrelevance? Art is a type of play for young children, and play is a thing we do for its own sake, instead of the sake of something else, like outcomes, money, or condemnation. These external considerations turn out to be beside the point when we are playing. By changing them, we're able to concentrate only on the present activity, and when we're performing creative work, that shows that we're capable of freely exploring our ideas without being worried about what someone else might think or how good the outcomes might be. This is the reason why a childlike sense of playfulness is one of the sources of creativity. Attempt making a piece of work to nurture this sense of playfulness and then instantly damaging it. Is it digital? Erase it. Musical? Don't record it. Physical? Throw it away or even burn it if you're feeling particularly dramatic. The aim is to disconnect yourself from the outcomes. You can take this one step further and intentionally create a piece of work as bad as it can possibly be. Draw the ugliest drawing, sing the most annoying song, write the most boring poem. Lastly, if you actually want to reconnect with your inner child, attempt playing with some real children. You don't have any? Change to one. For instance, just like the writer Lawrence Wilshire, you can select a set of building blocks to play with anytime you want a creative escape. What better method to work through a mental block than some real physical blocks, maybe some Lego? Number 7, you don't require an extraordinary life to perform extraordinary creative work. Visualize, if you could, mysteriously change your life 10 times cooler than it is presently. Your neighborhood, your home, your workplace, your friends, all the components of your everyday reality has been suddenly upgraded. If you can live such a life, do you consider that would be a change your creativity to the next phase? Do you consider the orderliness of your current reality as the key thing refraining you? A lot of people fall into this trap. They assume that if only their conditions were more extraordinary, their creative work would be more extraordinary as well, as if one is reliant on the other. However, there are a lot of great artists whose boring lives offer living proof that you can do extraordinary work even in the most unexceptional situations. Not just that, however, you can use those very conditions for your creative material, discovering the magical features buried inside the ordinary parts of daily life. Harvey Pecker, the comic book writer, offers an instance in point. He spent the majority of his adulthood working at a hospital in Cleveland, Ohio as a file clerk. However, he wasn't only able to write incredible comic books in spite of his lackluster job, he also made use of that job as the source material for his books, getting stories about his workplace experiences. Anywhere you see yourself, there's magic if you find it. However, the same token, you have to really find it in order to see it. And that means paying rapt attention to the world that surrounds you. By doing that, you can see the special little information that people would normally ignore. Unfortunately, present life inspires us to spend the majority of our time rushing around, practically unaware of our environments. Here's an easy exercise you can do in order to get into the routine of slowing down and concentrate on them. Get a pencil and sketch pad. Sit down and draw anything at an art museum or in your close surroundings. Take time and study your subject carefully. The art critic Peter Kothler recommends using a whole hour just looking at your subject before using another hour to draw it. You don't need to go that far. The aim is to actually slow down. Therefore, don't be stressed if you're not good at drawing. This practice is for anyone. Nevertheless, the goal isn't to make a beautiful picture, but to simply exercise your observational skills. Number 8. If your creative work is letting you or other people miserable, it is probably the time for you to leave it. When you realize that you're doing something that's letting you or the people that surround you miserable, what do you have to do? The solution is obvious in your personal life. Reassess your deeds and attempt to change it for the better. That's just as true of creative work. In spite of an unfortunately famous myth of the contrary, name it the myth of tortured artist. According to this myth, if you create great art, it somehow rewards excuses or even demands unhappiness. You can become addicted or become a full jerk to your family. It doesn't matter, providing that your work is great. The darkness in your life can certainly even be a good thing for your creativity. It offers you some demons to fight with. However, aside from being a dubious approach of thinking about mortality, it is also a completely wrong-headed method of looking at your creative work. Eventually, the idea of that work is to ensure that your life becomes better. Nevertheless, if it's not increasing the whole happiness present in our lives, what's the need for doing it? To put the point into a different approach, our creative work is something that's meant to assist our lives and not the other way around. If you're sacrificing other people's happiness or your own happiness on the altar of creativity, you're getting the entire aim of it backwards. Therefore, it's time to do some severe reassessment. You should know that you don't need to do creative work. There are a lot of other valuable things you could do with your life, from volunteering at a soup kitchen to tutoring kids in math. If it turns to a cause of misery, perhaps you should leave your work and attempt one of those options, at least for a spell. The essential message of these chapters is that you shouldn't continue going if where you're heading to is down a hole, particularly if you're taking other people down with you. Now, if you're only battling through a rough patch and your creative work is regularly a piece of joy, then by every means, please continue going. Hopefully the tips you've gained in these chapters will help you out. Remember that the world wants another good friend, parent, mentor, citizen, and generally human beings much more than it needs yet another touted artist. Take care of yourself and the people that surround you, and continue going forward toward the light, wherever it may be. Book review. Our creativity will continuously ebb and flow. However, there are a lot of things we can do to recover, protect, and support it. Creating a routine, detaching from distractions, and creating lists can help us concentrate on our work, ensure that we show up for it, and offer us some path with it. We can find inspiration by tidying up the place of work, sleeping, and stopping to listen to our environment. Also, gifting our work, avoiding obsessions with money as well as popularity, and reconnecting with a sense of playfulness can enable us to remember the vital drive of creativity, which is to enable our lives to get better. Take a walk. When you're trapped on something or feeling low about work, your life, or the world as a whole, there are little things that can assist you clear your head, get some perception, and revive your spirits better than a good walk. By eliminating yourself from the screens and busyness that take over present life, and by taking yourself outside and moving at an easy pace, you're providing yourself a firm block of time to think through your difficulties. Reconnect to your senses and notice all the good things that are still occurring in the universe. Even though your mind is disturbed and the headlines are dreadful, the birds still sing and the clouds still roll overhead. While appreciating their company, you'll be followed by the paths of Henry David Thoreau, Friedrich Nietzsche, Wallace Stevens, Charles Dickens, Ludwig van Beethoven, Bob Dylan, and a lot of other creative thinkers and artists who have recognized and admired the value of a nice walk. That's a wrap on this book summary. Keep going. If you want the PDF download, click the link below. We at Best Book Bits have done over 1,000 book summaries in video, written, and audio format. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast. If you want to support the channel, we have put together our top 450 Best Book Bits summaries. You can download in one massive downloadable PDF. Click the link below to download this. Thank you for watching and listening. Have yourself an amazing day. And remember,